Hey guys, if you like scary stories, especially Bigfoot stories and stories of the unexplained, well then you came to the right place. Here at Dravo Vein, we deal with all things horror, from telling true horror stories and the backstories that they do not want you to know. I'm your host, Sebastian, and welcome to Dravo Vein.
Welcome to Dravo Vein. As you've already seen, some of these stories may or may not be true. And the reason why we are saying that, because some of these stories have been told to us over the years. Some of the stories were directly told to one of us. In particular, most of them come through Sebastian, actually. But some of the stories have been overheard when they were not supposed to hear this. But that goes for another story. So what it comes down to, we cannot confirm or deny that these events actually took place. But based on the people who have told some of these stories, I would take they're very reliable sources, and I would tend to lean that they probably did take place, or at least there's some believability in that. Now, some of these stories, such as the one you're about to hear, I can say did actually happen because it actually happened to one of us. And that one of us is Sebastian. Actually, two of us, Sebastian and Jeremiah. But Sebastian's going to start us off here. But before we get into the story, Sebastian's going to explain a little more detail as to why we're not showing our faces and why voices have been disguised. So Sebastian, lead us off into give a little bit of background as to why.
Hello everyone, I'm Sebastian. I'm the one that's the key guy to all these stories. Like Elijah said, I'm the one that's either overheard them or been told them directly. He said this story pertains to me and Jeremiah is the reason why we are having to disguise and conceal our identities and voice. Jeremiah is former Special Forces, and with his security clearance and his background, we have to conceal everything. There's a lot of us also that are in the military and law enforcement, and they would like to go on record, but want their voices disguised. So that's why we're disguising our voices to conceal the identity of the others in our group. But the story that I'm going to tell you all today, it happened. We witnessed it, and I hope you enjoy it.
My apologies for not letting you know that I am Elisha, as Sebastian pointed out. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. We've rehearsed this several times now, and I don't know why I leave out who I am every single time. But this story you're about to hear actually takes place in West Virginia, and what goes on, I've actually never been with them on any of their hunting trips, but Sebastian has family up there, and he's going to explain a little more detail on that. And kind of a favorite hunting spot, isn't it, Sebastian?
It used to be.
Yeah, until this event, I guess. Actually, well, there's been more than one event, but right now we're going to focus on just one of the stories. So, my understanding, well, I mentioned you have family up there, but you got friends and family, so give a little brief background to let the viewers know what it's like in the area that you hunt in, and a little bit of background. We'll try to keep it brief, because I'm sure the listener is going to be wanting to hear this story. You definitely want to hear this story.
I'll be brief. Half my family's from Kentucky, the other half from West Virginia. We have the fortunate of knowing a friend of ours, Maddie, whose family they own coal mines, logging companies, oil companies, all this and that. They have 13,000 acres of land in southeastern part of West Virginia, mountainous area, logging country. We've hunted on this 13,000 acres for many a years, since the late 90s till 2014 when this incident happened. There used to be 16 to 20 of us hunting there. And each year, one guy refuses to come back and wouldn't tell us why. Always would make excuses. That person or the other individuals would go hunt with Maddie on his private family property. The others of us who were either brave or too stupid to realize what was going on this 13,000 acres of property, we all decided we would hunt on this property. It was a hunter's paradise. All kinds of game. Deer, bear, boar, turkey, you name it. And each year, one guy would refuse to come hunting, would make excuses. Nobody would want to come out and say what was actually happening up there. In 2014, there was 6 of us left hunting up there, 4 of my friends, and the other one was my son. And that was the last time we went hunting, that November of 2014, on this 13,000 acres. But there was weird things happening to us. And, well, we knew what it was, and we all said, the hell with it, we're done hunting. So to this day, nobody hunts on this 13,000 acres of property. They lease land around this 13,000 acres to other hunters, but nobody hunts this 13,000 acres, ever. They don't even log on there anymore.
Now, we're going to get into the story in just a moment. We're going to set up a few things here as set the stage, so to speak. So was you Elmer Fudding going up there hunting that wascally wabbit?
Yeah, with antlers.
So they were deer. So you're deer hunting. So that's what legally I might want to add. I don't know how much difference the viewers out there, but we might mention a few for those of you who don't hunt, we might mention a few details what involved in hunting. But I do want to point out to anybody who thinks anything that was being done illegal, no, it was a legal hunting season, hunting deer, and so this was the trip, deer hunting trip's what it was.
Yeah, we're ethical hunters. We follow the guidelines and rules. If, in the morning and in the evening, we only shoot during the legal hours of shooting light. And this was opening day of gun season in West Virginia in November 2014. Anybody who hunts West Virginia knows that the week of Thanksgiving, is when gun season comes in. And like every year, everybody usually kills opening morning. Rampant deer all over the place. It was not a typical Monday of opening gun season. Nobody within the group heard anything, saw anything. There were signs all over the place of deer activity. Even food plots that we would have set out. If it was salt blocks, corn feeders, sweet corn powder, sugar stuff we'd put out that they make for deer, all that was being eaten. We saw deer signs, rubs, scrapes, but we saw no deer, no nothing, no birds, no squirrels, nothing.
So it was pretty much as if the deer knew, it's hunting season, go into hiding.
Pretty much, and what's the weirdest thing, anybody that hunts realizes or knows or they understand that if you're hunting on private property, you hear gunshots all around through the valley. If it's on private or public property, this morning, nothing coming from the other places, the other land or the lots that Maddie's family leases. There was no gunshots, and we knew there were other hunters in the area outside the 13,000 acres, but there was nothing that day. Nothing.
And in some of your years, I have family that I've actually never hunted. And I guess I should point out, anybody I know that hunt, they don't hunt it it's not just for a sport. They actually use the deer meat. And I know Sebastian does the same thing, and my family members done the same thing. But sometimes when you go hunting, it is really weird. I've heard these stories where they come back and it's like the deer knew I was there. It's like you just don't see any deer. And one reason I'm saying this, because this kind of sets up the stage, because I've heard this story, so this kind of sets up the stage that, they weren't really seeing anything. But then, I'm hoping I'm not skipping anything, but Sebastian and Jeremiah finally see something.
Yeah, we finally saw something, and it was around 4 o'clock that evening. For those who don't understand West Virginia, it's all mountainous. They have a lot of deer, more deer than they have people. And we finally saw deer at 4 o'clock that evening. And with the mountains, the sunlight, it gets dark really fast because the mountains block the sunlight. So if you're in a valley and you're hunting and it starts getting dark, you need to get out because of you're going to be trapped in there unless you have a flashlight you can get out. So we're probably within 30 to 40 minutes of actual legal shooting light. And that morning, everybody hunted their normal spots. We all regrouped around 12:30, ate lunch, all decided we're going to do the same thing we did in the morning. And for the listeners, the other people in the group, they were not seeing or hearing anything. Nobody saw nothing, heard nothing. It's like the deer and wildlife vanished. Like you said, oh, it's hunting season, time to go to someplace else. But we come down off the main logging road. And next thing I know, I'm getting pounded on my right side. Jeremiah's pointing to my right because he's in the passenger side. I'm driving my truck. And right there stands 3 deer. A buck in the middle, a doe on his left, a doe on his right. And at first, all I saw was white tails. And then the antlers of the buck just lit up in a sense of, wow, that's a big rack. And my heart was pounding. Anybody who's got buck fever knows they see a beautiful buck, what they would call or deem a wall hanger. My heart was pounding. But the thing that threw me off was these deer were not paying attention to us. They were more concerned with something that was down below them, not us. And we're in my truck driving down. They can hear us. They don't even look at us.
Okay, so for the hunters out there who might not want to know this information, and they'll know what we're talking about. So, how big of a rack would you say was on that buck?
Oh, we counted it. It was 8 points. It was a massive, wide rack, typical. You know, you have non-typical and typical. This is a 8-pointer, typical, huge rack, big bodied deer, big shouldered deer, big bodied deer. For those who like meat, you were going to get a lot of meat off of this bad boy. Yes.
So that was one big buck.
Yes.
And so Jeremiah's pointed this out to you. You're seeing it. They're acting odd already because normally deer, you know, you drive up to at least look your way or act like fidgety or something, or even just flat out run away. So they're staying still.
We're still in the truck, and we, over a period of time, we know daylight is fading and fading fast. I probably have now at this point, after driving the logging road, probably 15, maybe 20 minutes of legal shooting light. And we're sitting in the truck just looking at each other, and we're having a conversation. I mean, this is so surreal. We're having a conversation like they're not even acknowledging that we are here. They know that we are here. And Jeremiah's making fun of West Virginia deer and all this and that. And finally he's like, just go out and kill this thing and be done with it. If it's that stupid not acknowledging us, it needs to be thinned out of the herd and killed. As I'm getting ready to open the door, the doe on the left has like a gyration, like a conniption fit. It was like Tourette's syndrome and a seizure. The deer freaked out and started running the direction we were going to go. Me and Jeremiah look at each other like, wow, that's odd. That's rather strange. And while this happens, the buck and the other doe are not looking at us.
That does seem a little odd. I would have to admit, even though I'm not been hunting, but that would seem a little strange. So then you know, keep the story moving along. Then, so you get out. You're getting, cause like you already said, you're running out of time, daylight time. So you have to make a legal shot here pretty quick. So decision time, you know, do we go ahead and make it, you know, because make a kill, you're going to have to now do the part getting whatever you call it. I know you told me what it called, doing to the deer. So you kind of have to make a quick decision here what you're going to do. Take a shot or not take a shot. They're standing there like waiting to be shot. So
this is very significant for the hunters. I'm opening the door to grab my vehicle out of my back door of my four-door cab truck. The other deer that ran off comes back. Me and Jeremiah are looking at each other like, what is going on? As fast as it ran off, it came back. It's like something spooked it out. Like, it went that way, came back, didn't want to go that way now. It felt more safe with us, and it saw us, looked at the other two deer, then it ran up the road where we just came from, to my left. Jeremiah and me are looking at each other like, that's odd, and Jeremiah's like, just kill him, let's get out of here.
So being the fact you hadn't seen deer all day, now you're seeing a deer, even though they're acting odd, you're all just excited right now you're about ready to get a deer. So even though they're acting odd, you kind of like, that didn't raise red flags because you're excited that you're getting ready to get your first one. Was the first one of the trip?
Yes.
So first one of the trip, so I can understand why that wouldn't raise red flags. What's over there? You're focusing on the deer. I'm getting my kill for the day.
For me, my heart was pounding. I was like, that's a big body deer. Hunters will know when they see the trophy, your heart starts pounding. I'm going through that. I think later on looking back at it, Jeremiah, his senses were up. Something was not copacetic. He knew this because his guard was up. He was now just like, something's not right. Kill this deer. Let's get the hell out of here kind of a thing.
So was his spidey senses tingling?
If they exist, yes. And his spidey senses would be on steroids.
Okay, so you get out of the car, you get your gun. Did you have to go to the back of the vehicle to get your gun?
Yeah, well, I opened the back door of my truck, and I'm grabbing out my gun. It's in a gun case. The other doe that's now on the right side of the buck, she starts looking at us, looking back and forth. Down what they're looking at me. She sees me. She sees me looking around the cab of my truck, looking at her. Jeremiah's like, stop. She's going to run off, but she keeps looking down below her. Keeps looking back at me. And this went on for probably, honestly, 3 or 4 minutes. And Jeremiah's like, just grab your gun and blast that buck. I grab the gun. I'm leaning around the cab of my truck, resting on the bed of my truck. I'm kind of concealing myself in the back cab of my truck, leaning over. Got my gun resting on the bed of my truck. And I don't have a clear shot on the buck because all I have is his ass end. And for those hunters out there, they know what a Texas heart shot is. I am not going to do that. I'm a one shot, one kill kind of guy. And I did not have a good shot on this buck. And I'm not going to shoot it and wound it or put it through its miseries. I want a clean kill, fast kill. That buck finally turned and looked at us. And he saw me, saw the truck, saw Jeremiah. Jeremiah was like, shoot it. I said no. Finally gave a broadside shot. I blasted it, shooting it up and out off the embankment, tumbling down. The weirdest thing after that, after you shoot something and your heart, starts pounding, it starts coming down, that doe was still standing there, looking at us, looking down. She did not run. That was odd.
Yeah, that would seem pretty odd. Again, it seemed like that would maybe put up a red flag, but at the same time, any hunter's going to know you just got your big one for the day or for that trip. So you'll know Sebastian's excitement over what he had just done. So now the deer didn't just fall over dead; it rolled down an embankment, right?
No, it did not roll down. It got flung out. I thought it was falling down the embankment. No, I hit it with so much force from a 7mm Magnum that the impact, you got to realize I was about 10 yards from this deer. It was that close. I mean, Jeremiah got out of his truck, he'd take 3 steps and smack it right in the ass. It was that close. So the impact of it just it's like you running and pushing something off a cliff. It went up, but the impact of the gun, it kind of went up and out. And that thrashing was, I guess when it hit the ground, it was thrashing. Apparently I didn't shoot it as good as I wanted to. That thrashing was not it tumbling down. It was thrashing down below after it landed. So after that, Jeremiah's like, you got a good kill. You blasted the hell out of that. I put the gun back in the gun case. And he's like, Jeremiah was like, Sebastian, you seeing this still? And I'm looking, and that doe's standing right there, not budging. I'm walking around the back of the truck. Jeremiah gets out the passenger side. We're now on the passenger side, both looking at each other, and this doe's probably 4 or 5 feet from me. I'm talking to her like, girl, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. She wouldn't leave. She came walking towards me as if like she wanted me to pet her or something. Something had her spooked. I did not know. I was on a high because I killed a buck. But I basically walked up, tapped her in the butt and said, you need to go. And she walked nonchalantly past Jeremiah, front of my vehicle, and went up the embankment that the other doe went previously. And me and Jeremiah are looking at each other like, this is odd. And where the 3 deer were at originally, there was 2 saplings that were hanging off the embankment. And Jeremiah's looking at the left one, and he goes, you got a good kill. I'm like, how do you know? He's like, look at this little sapling. He had hide, chunks of meat, blood on it. And he goes, this is lung and heart. You got a good kill on it. I said, well, then what was the noise? He goes, it's death thrashing. It's last breath. I was like, okay. And we looked down below, and right there, about 15 yards down, 10 yards out from the bottom of the incline of this ridge, laid my buck that I shot.
So now at this point, y'all going to have to go down and do your thing on it. And you and Jeremiah had a thing. Like if you got the kill, Jeremiah would do, or if Jeremiah got the kill, you would do. You're going to have to explain a little bit on that. I don't remember the terms for that. So, and plus it's starting to lose daylight, so you're already, because with the wooded area, when you go down into the woods, it gets darker. So you're needing flashlights at this point, right?
Yeah, we're at the point we need flashlights. We can see the white belly of the deer, but you can't see its brown coat. It's that dark. And it's now in an open area because it was an area that was previously logged the year before. So Jeremiah's like, there's no need for the gun. Just, I already had my gun back in my case. He had 2 tactical flashlights that they use in special forces, and he used over in Afghanistan. And what the deal is, if I kill a deer, we call it the bitch rule. I kill a deer, Jeremiah's my bitch. He field dresses it and guts it. He kills a deer, I'm his bitch. I'll field dress it and gut it for him. So he was the low man on the totem pole in this case. So we kind of went down the hill and through some thickets and thorn bushes. And by the time we reached the deer, it was already dark. We had to utilize the flashlight. And the area that we went in at was probably 50 yards wide, 110 yards in length. And it was an area that they harvested logs last year. And Maddie's family and the loggers, they're from the company, a lot of poachers like to get on their property, especially this property. And they would make it where you couldn't get vehicles in the area. If it was ATVs, UTVs, side-by-sides, whatever. And in this area where we deer fell at, think of it as like huge ant mounds. Big dirt mounds that are probably 4 feet high, 6 feet in circumference, maybe a 2-foot gap before the next one started, and you had like 100 of these in this area.
So maybe like not quite as big as a pitcher's mound, perhaps?
No, these were bigger. These were like little miniature volcanoes.
Oh, wow.
You had, they're like real steep. It was so vehicles can't get through, not even ATVs. Because off to the left was an apple orchard, and then we had No Man's Valley. And that's key to this story. Remember No Man's Valley. This area that we're talking about, they harvested last year. All right, we had a lot of hardwoods here. Whatever they didn't use, if it was the stumps, the roots, the logs that they didn't use, they threw it down in No Man's Valley. No Man's Valley connected to the next ridge across, which was that logging road we were going to down, wrap around, and it came into this clearing. It did like a horseshoe. So everywhere you looked, you had these little mounds, 4 feet high, 6 feet in radius, 2 feet apart. So if the top of it is 4 feet, It angled down 6 feet, then you had maybe 2 feet, then there would be another one. You had hundreds of these in this 110 yard by 50 yard area.
So all this is done on purpose, so humans can't just be frolicking, like you said, driving their ATVs, whatever, through the area. And so that make it very important to know with what is getting ready to happen next in this story. And for those listeners, if you're needing to go to the bathroom, this might be the time for a pause and a bathroom break, because we're about to get into the juicy stuff here. Might make your hair stand up on your neck. I don't know. So what happens next, Sebastian?
Nightmare, disbelief, an oh shit moment.
But still, it's not as bad as your one in the early 90s.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and tell the viewers. Actually, I would say this one probably scared me more because one that happened to me in 91, I physically saw this creature. And this is in West Virginia also. I don't know what it is about West Virginia, but you all got something big, tall, and hairy, and it seems pissed off.
And that is a story for another time, which you definitely will want to hear. But, yeah, this one, and I've heard both of them many a times, actually, so... And I don't think they even call it a Bigfoot in West Virginia, do they? Or at least not in that area.
I know they call them mountain booger, wood booger. And as a kid growing up, you know, I'm from Kentucky. We always stay outside late at night, play basketball, this and that. When I go visit my relatives in West Virginia, and then the camps that they have in between the haulers and stuff, I'd be shooting basketball, and people are like, hey, kid, you need to get in. The booger's going to get you. It never dawned on me when they referred to booger, it meant wood booger, mountain booger, the wood booger or the mountain booger. That was a Sasquatch. I'm thinking of the boogeyman. That's just their term for the boogeyman. Boy, was I wrong. But this happened in 91. I saw this thing. That's a different story. But not seeing it, but hearing it, it puts a whole new perspective and fear. It's like you see the shark jaws, okay, you see it. The fear's gone. But when you hear that dun dun dun, that scares the hell out of you. Well, that's this moment.
And that's what made that movie work, was that music and everything. But that's a whole other subject in itself. So yeah, so you're all down there. Jeremiah, I forget the term again, but Jeremiah's doing his thing. You're holding the flashlights.
All right, so I'm standing up, all right? I have to give you the area. So now I'm standing holding both tactical flashlights in my left and right hand.
And keep in mind, when he's saying tactical flashlights, these things are bright. These things shine. If you've seen those commercials where they're showing that bright flashlight, even if it's exaggerated in the commercial, but these things really are very bright. So keep that in mind. These are bright flashlights.
Right. So I'm standing up holding a tactical flashlight in each hand. Now the area to my right, which is my 3 o'clock, would be where my truck's at. To my 9 o'clock would be No Man's Valley. All right. Then on the other side would be Ridge and other hardwoods and the logging road that wrapped around that we were on.
Now remember that, viewers, no man's land, as he goes on. Remember that, no man land.
So Jeremiah's squatting down and he's, going to field dress the deer. So he's like, well, let me get the back straps out first. So he flipped the deer over. Now the stomach of the deer is towards me. The back straps portions are towards him. The head of the deer is facing to my 9 o'clock, which is Jeremiah's 3 o'clock. We're facing each other. So Jeremiah's 9 o'clock is my 3 o'clock, and my 3 o'clock is his 9 o'clock.
I hope the viewers can tell time.
All right. So to my 9 o'clock, about 50 yards, is the valley of No Man's Valley. Jeremiah gets the first incision in behind the neck of the buck and is getting ready to slice it down towards its ass. And off to our left, we hear... this knock. Bam! 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 I'm holding the 2 flashlights looking down at Jeremiah. Jeremiah looks up at me. He's like, who is that? And I look to my left, which is my 9 o'clock, and I flash the flashlight, and I'm looking around. I don't see nothing. I don't see orange. I don't see eye glare, because the next ridge over to me is about 200 yards. And where everybody's hunting, behind me about 3 miles is Logan. Behind Jeremiah about 4 miles is Levi. On the other side, we're talking 4, 5, maybe 6 miles on the ridges behind No Man's Land, No Man's Valley, is my son Tristan and Richie. This knock was 200 yards on the other side of No Man's Valley on the logging road. So, was it Richie? Was it Tristan playing jokes with us? Was it poacher signaling? I already knew what it was. But Jeremiah is looking up at me saying, don't even go to the 4 idiots, that the show you watched, that find Bigfoot. And I'm like, then I don't know who it is.
So Jeremiah actually thought somebody was over there, one of y'all's other hunting buddies, like the ones you just named.
He thinks it's Richie. Richie is the practical joker of the group, and he thought it was Richie playing a joke on me, making Bigfoot noises, and they're not even nowhere near this area. They're like on the back side of the bottom area of this property.
And so this came from the area of No Man's Land, as we already pointed out. So there's no way Richie, Logan, Tristan, or any of them could have even snuck over there.
No, they had to go through us.
Exactly.
We have a main logging road. We're on a secondary logging road. To get anywhere over in that area, you have to go past me and my truck. We were the only ones in this portion of the area. We're in the center of this 13,000 acres.
So now you hear 3 wood knocks. You have an idea what it is because you've seen the show. You know what those usually mean. So what happens next?
Jeremiah's like, that's somebody messing with us. Hold the flashlight down. Let me start gutting. So I took the flashlight. It was in my left hand. I was kept looking. Every time I bring the flashlight down, we now off to the left, after we heard the 3 wood knocks, we hear large thumping thud noises. Like thump, thump, thump.
So like somebody's walking?
Something's walking, big and heavy, moving towards us. And it seemed like it was hurrying, but Jeremiah, I'm looking down at him, and he's starting to shake a little bit. And this guy is Special Forces. He's been through it all, seen it all, and done it all. He's kind of shaking a little bit, and he starts looking at his 3 o'clock, which is my 9 o'clock. But he can't see anything because all these dirt mounds are blocking his view. And every time I would flash the flashlight over, the thuds would stop.
And you could tell that this was a 2-legged animal or a 4-legged animal?
It sounded like a person, to me it sounded like a person was jumping per spot, like something was big and heavy, like a human would jump. But Jeremiah, the tracker that he is, I can't reveal all of his skills.
He's got a lot of them.
That he does. But he's like, he had this look on his face. It's funny now, but at the time it scared the hell out of me. He was just like, oh God, that's something walking on 2 legs. That's something bipedal. Oh God, no, not now. I don't need this.
And didn't he even ask again, like, there's no person that could be over there?
Oh yeah, he kept on saying it. You sure that's not Richie and Tristan? I'm like, positive. They're back in the back part of this land, this property that's 4 miles on the other side of where we're hearing these noises at. That's not them. And I was letting them know that Levi's 4 miles behind him and Logan's 3 miles behind me.
And whatever this is, it seemed to be moving pretty quickly too, right?
Yes. And Jeremiah's like, because I've sit there and said, man, it sounds like it's jumping. He goes, no, dude, those are large strides. And that's large thud noises. And I can't explain this. It's like you almost like you felt the thuds too. Not only did you hear it, you felt the thuds. That was the creepiest thing. I can't describe it. Anybody that's had this experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. To hear the thuds and to feel the thuds, it's creepy.
And once again, this is coming from no man's land. So, let's say if a human was coming through there, is it even possible for them to move at that type of speed?
On that ridge line, yeah. But they're walking towards us, and in between us and that other ridge is no man's valley. That's where the loggers would take the stumps, the logs, the branches, boulders, rocks, everything in this area. And that was what was freaking Jeremiah out, is because that thing's walking towards this way. And he was like, surely to God, anybody that poaches up here or any human will know about this area, that they can't go through there. He kept talking, was like, surely to God, they're not going to walk down there. We're going to have to get like people to save them because you're going to get mechanical injuries. Break an ankle, break a leg, blow out a knee. You get down there, you're not getting out. Even in the daytime, physically fit. I mean, Jeremiah was talking even on his team, a 6-man, A-team. It would take them a half a day to get through there, and they're physically fit and they work as a team. But he said, surely to God, we'd have bumps, bruises, scrapes, cuts. Somebody would blow out something.
So already you're kind of figuring, well, you have an idea what it probably is. Already Jeremiah's at least thinking, okay, it's not human, then what the heck is this?
He's thinking, he looks up at me, and he's like, there's something going on. So, Jeremiah is looking down at this knife, and he looks up at me, goes, and he shows me this knife, goes, this is all I have for force protection, is this fucking knife. Pardon me for my language, but that's what Jeremiah said. And as he's holding it, he's shaking. And he's got blood all over his hands because he's made an initial cut on this deer. And he's like, this is all we have, is this frickin' knife for force protection. And there's someone, or I'll go ahead and say it, something walking towards this way, and it obviously wants what we have.
And so Jeremiah, actually what's coming up is probably my favorite line. So Jeremiah tells you what? I've been trained.
Well, I've been trained. All right. Well, I'm gonna go through this real fast. So Jeremiah's trying to hurry up and get these back straps out. Every time I flash the light over, the steps would stop. Now this thing is now coming down in the valley. We can hear it walking down into no man's valley. You can hear large thuds, snaps of logs, branches, boulders tumbling down. Every time I flash the flashlight over, it would stop. Jeremiah's like, to flash the flashlight here, let's hurry up and get this. Every time I flash the flashlight down towards Jeremiah, this thing would make its way down. And it was large thrashing and crashing noises. It was violent.
So it sounds like it's getting closer.
It's coming towards us. It's now down in the bottom of the valley. We can hear it coming up our side of the embankment now. And Jeremiah's like, that thing is moving awfully fast. It would take 6 of us in the Special Forces community a half a day to get through there. That thing did it in less than a minute. What the hell is going on here? And he's like, I'm just getting back straps out and we'll just get back to the truck, go back to the campsite, and the hell with this. And we now hear it on our side of the embankment, and it looked like it was getting ready to crest the embankment. And I'm flashing the flashlight, looking for eye shine, something. Even if it had eye shine, Jeremiah wouldn't be able to see it because he's squatting down, field dressing this deer, and all these dirt mounds are blocking his view. And I'm sitting there flashing. Jeremiah's like, let me get this back strap out and we'll get the hell out of here. Sebastian, flash this light down. So I'm flashing the light down, and as soon as that light hit Jeremiah, you hear the whoop, 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 like it was standing 50 yards to my left, and it crested the embankment. And your favorite line that you love to hear, Elijah,
I do like this one.
we're frozen in fear. I'm standing looking down at Jeremiah with 2 flashlights, one in each hand. After hearing this, to my left, Jeremiah looks up and is like, you know, I have been trained to kill men, and that ain't a man. That ain't a man. That ain't human. I don't know what that is, but I've been trained to kill people, and that ain't a people. That's a thing. I'm out of here. With that, he takes one of the flashlights out of my hand, says, Sebastian, I'll meet you back up at your truck, taps me on the shoulder, and he hauls ass back up towards the truck, which is now my right. And he starts running up. So he's got one of the tactical flashlights. He has the knife that we used to gut the deer. Here I am. Go ahead.
And I thought he was trained in don't leave a man behind. He left you behind.
I don't blame him.
Okay.
But I'm standing there, shock and fear of what I just heard. And I'm sitting there, got this flashlight in my left hand. He's taking the one out of my right hand. And I can hear Jeremiah going up the embankment cussing. And I realize why he's cussing, because he's getting thrashed and cut by these thorn bushes. Hands, face, everything. It's the only time he ever left his sidearm up in the truck, because he always carries a weapon on him. I left mine up in the truck. We always have a pistol on our side. I'm still standing there in fear. I don't want to look to my left. I don't want to shine this light to my left. Because if I saw eyes shine, I would piss myself again.
So because of what your encounter from 91, you're kind of in a little bit of a shell shock at this point, right?
Yeah, because the one in 91, we didn't hear nothing. We saw it. This, we don't see it, we hear it. And there's 2 different kind of fears. Seeing it, you can't believe what you're seeing, but you're seeing it, okay. But not seeing it and hearing it, it's like anybody seen the movie The Fog. You see the fog coming. You know there's something inside the fog. Scares the hell out of you. Well, this is that moment. I'm sitting there in pitch dark with a flashlight shining at a deer down by my feet. Something big, hairy, and pissed off is to my left coming towards me. And I'm just in fear. And next thing I hear is my truck door opening up, my truck starting. I hear Jeremiah's like, Sebastian, get your ass up here. I got you covered. And something just, feet don't fail me now. And I just, one last time, flashed my light off to my left, didn't see nothing. And I just hauled ass the way we came down. And I can see why Jeremiah was cussing, because I got cut, slashed by thorns, sticker bushes, everything. And I just kept hearing Jeremiah saying, I'm going to keep you in the light. Don't get out of the light. And I'm dog crawling up this side of this embankment fast. Just God, get me to my truck.
And Jeremiah had gotten the gun by this time. He had you covered just in case.
Yeah, he actually grabbed my I have a Browning automatic. And he actually had my gun. He just grabbed the first one. It was mine. And I don't know how they do it in military tactical, but he had my weapon pointed at me with his flashlight pointed at me. And he was like, follow the light. And I kept hearing him say, like, if something grabs you, I'm dropping it. I'm sending hate down range. I'm going to drop it. And my biggest fear after hearing that is I got the flashlight in my hand and my flashlight in my right hand, and I'm just dog crawling up this hill. And my biggest fear is, God, please don't let something hairy grab me from the dark and drag me. That was my biggest fear.
So was you having any flashback to what happened in 91 at that point?
Yes.
So you knew you needed to haul your booty up there as fast as possible.
You know, I'm going to say this. I don't remember everything that I was saying. And anybody that knows Jeremiah, including yourself, he's not really a religious guy. But he was saying later on that I was saying the Lord's Prayer as I was clawing and climbing my way up to the embankment. I was in shock It's not like I was in 91. I can tell you everything from 91. I know I was going up the embankment. I don't remember much. I just wanted to say, don't grab me out of the dark. And I remember getting back to our hotel, all the cuts and scrapes I had on my hands, my face, everything.
So was you even making some deals with God? I don't know if you ever seen the movie The End with Burt Reynolds, and he's like swimming in the ocean, and he's like making it, God, if you help me, give me the strength, I'll give you 50% of my money, or something like that. Was you making any silly deals like that?
I don't know, but Jeremiah is not a liar. And he said I was saying the Lord's Prayer. So if I was saying the Lord's Prayer, then I was making a deal with God.
And you don't even remember doing it.
I don't remember doing it. The only thing I remember after that, because I was scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared shitless. Seeing them's one thing. Hearing them and not seeing them, that's another thing. I remember getting to my truck, getting up on that level plateau area, and I was like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And then I see my truck running, my lights on, and I was like, I don't remember my truck being left on. And, I was in the back bed of my truck. It was like, screaming, get your ass in there, I got you covered. And I go around and I get in the truck, and then I hear something behind, and I'm panicking now. And I hear Jeremiah talking to somebody behind us. And lo and behold, in the truck behind us, it was another truck behind us. It was Richie and my son Tristan. And Jeremiah is yelling at them profanities. Richie gets out of the truck. Jeremiah's like, get back in the effing truck. We got to get the hell out of here. And Richie's just like, what's going on? And you can hear Tristan like, I don't think Jeremiah's playing Richie. I think we need to get back in the truck. I'm yelling like, get back in the effing truck. And they get in the truck, and Jeremiah's just yelling. He's like, I'm in charge now. You follow my command. You do as I say. Get the hell out. Just go in reverse until I tell you to turn around. And I just looked in my rearview mirror and my backup camera. I can just see, Richie hauling his ass truck in reverse. I just see the headlights getting smaller and smaller, and I can see the dust and stuff. And I can hear Jeremiah pounding on top of my cab in my truck. It's like, Sebastian, haul ass. Keep going reversed. And I was going reverse, going up the logging road, got plateaued at the level of the main logging road, and I kept on going reverse. And probably 100 yards down the logging road was a area that you could do a 3-point turnaround. And I saw Richie do a 3-point turnaround. He's out the window, what the hell do I do now? And Jeremiah said, just go to the fucking main gate. We'll meet you at the main gate. Just don't stop for shit. And you can see, Richie speed off, and I saw his brake lights vanish around the bend, and Jeremiah's jumping out of the truck, and he was like opening the door, rolled the window down. He's like, do the 3-point turnaround when I get in. He shut the door, and he's now hanging out of the door. I don't know how they do this in special forces, but these guys are badasses. He did this fluidly, man. I don't even know if I used the word right, because I'm now kind of reliving the moment. I'm scared. And it's shock and awe. I'm in shock what happened, but I'm in awe to see Jeremiah pull out his special forces shit. These guys are badasses. So I'm doing a 3-point turnaround. Jeremiah's hanging out with my weapon and his tactical flashlight, and he's pointing, out. He's like, I don't know what the term is. He's like sitting on my windowsill, pointing the gun on the other side of the cab of my vehicle as I'm doing a 3-point turnaround. And he's like pivoting in the same direction. So if I'm going straight, his body's pivoting, and the gun, the weapon, and the light is facing that area we just came back from. And I hauled ass, and he's still hanging out the back of the vehicle, or the outside the vehicle, out of the window, facing the gun now towards the back bed of the truck where we just came from. And finally, once we got around the bend, he came in. We had our windows down. He had my gun in between his legs. He, turns off the flashlight, and I just remember him resting his head on my barrel of my gun, just taking deep breaths. I'm white knuckling it. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He's like, we can either take our short pass to our campsite, which is a ridge higher, but we have to go past the area we just came from. And Jeremiah's like, I really don't want to get out of the truck, and I really don't want to go through the short pass because we're going to have to go past the area we just came from, but the next ridge higher up. And thank God when we got to the gate, Richie was out unlocking the gate. And we got there, Jeremiah yells out the window, it's like, Richie, get back in the truck and just take off. And he was like, well, we got to shut Maddie's gate. And Jeremiah's like cussing at him, saying, I don't fucking care, get in the truck. We'll meet you back at the campsite. Don't stop for shit. And, you know, I understand where Richie's coming from because we respect our friend's area. But Jeremiah's instinct and skills were taken over. He was in combat mode. I don't know what the terminology is that they use, but he's in a fighting mood. And
well, Jeremiah knows how to defend himself, but he was trained to do that. But what I find interesting, I always find funny, because knowing Jeremiah, how he is, and the fact that he actually doesn't believe the Bigfoot, but yet he's acting this way. He won't ever admit about the Bigfoot existing, but yet he's acting in a way that tells me he's like, it may actually have existed, that it may have been what was out there.
there's a lot about Jeremiah we don't know. You know, he'll tell you certain combat stories that he can tell. There's classified stuff he will not tell us. But some of the stuff we hear from his friends that he served with, I'm telling you right now, I'm not a bet man, but I would bet my house, my vehicle, my life, everything, that Jeremiah, through the military, has had some form of contact with these things. He knows they exist. He's done something with the military with these things, but he can't come out and say it. Because you've been around him. You've seen his demeanor when we talk about this. His demeanor changes. I'm thinking that, yeah, he knows they exist. He's seen it or done something. He just won't say it.
And just to add about Jeremiah, as what type of person he is, like if you was going to go into combat, you want Jeremiah by your side. As you already pointed out earlier, he's probably seen and done it all, especially with some of the stuff that he has done in the military. But I still just find it so interesting. In my opinion, if you knew Jeremiah like we do, that's what makes the story so interesting, for him to react the way he did. And actually, folks, for those listening in, this isn't over yet. What happens the next morning is very interesting in itself. But I think Sebastian has a little bit more to tell you here, what still happens this night. But stay tuned to find out what happens the next morning.
Richie takes off with Tristan. I leave, with Jeremiah. We don't even shut the gate. And for those of y'all who live in West Virginia, when you talk about gates, we're talking about the big lead pipe gates they use for the coal mines and logging things. Nothing a truck or a vehicle is going to ram. It's going to do more damage to your vehicle than anything. Big, huge lead gates. So we go to the next gate where we camp at, and we're coming in hot. And now there's Levi and Logan there. They've already got the bonfire. We're going to plan to cook out, eat there, then go back to our hotel 45 minutes away. And we come in hot. Logan, Levi's there. Richie's getting out of his truck. He's cussing. He's like, what's the deal with the attitude, Jeremiah? It's like he's going to get and confront Jeremiah. Jeremiah gets out of the truck, doesn't say a word to nobody. Logan and Levi is looking like, what the hell's going on? Levi jokes too, and he's like, hey guys, you coming in? It's like a NASCAR pit or something. And, Tristan's like, Dad, what's going on? I'm just like telling everybody, calm down. Richie's like getting ready to mouth off to Jeremiah. Jeremiah walks past him, shoulder shrugs him, sits down, not saying a word. Everybody's now like, what's going on? And he still has my weapon. As he sits down, he's got my weapon draped across his leg.
So he's still holding on your weapon. That's pretty funny.
No, it's not, because it's scaring the hell out of you. When you see a special forces guy, seen it done it all, sitting there in front of the bonfire, has a weapon like he's on patrol waiting for the enemy to come to schwack him. Yeah, we're all like, what the hell's going on? And
I guess especially you, because you knew what had just happened. Others didn't.
right. And the thing about it is, we had any problems there. Maddie, our billionaire friend, it's like, here's a satellite phone. Call me for an emergency, because there's no cell phone reception up there. So I get on the cell phone. I go in. On this place we have like 3 or 4 trailers, like the box trailers, house all of our equipment stuff. We've got 2 campers. I go inside one of the campers, and I'm calling Maddie. And I call him 5 or 6 times, and his little son of a bitch is not answering it. I'm like, here's for an emergency. We obviously have an emergency. Now we realize why nobody hunts this property of our other friends, because they're all at Maddie's property. It's like an hour and 15 minutes away hunting. We're here. We realize why nobody hunts with us. That little rich bastard's not answering the phone. And Levi and Logan are like, Jeremiah, what's wrong? And Jeremiah is like, I'm ready to go to the hotel. Just get me off this fucking mountain. And we all are like, let's go. And I'm like, Tristan, let's go. I'm getting Jeremiah off this mountain. And here's the funny thing, all right? So picture this. We just gutted the deer. So I can laugh about this now, okay? But at the time, I wasn't. But picture, say you're Logan or Levi, Richie or Tristan. You see Sebastian, me, and Jeremiah freaking out. And you look at Jeremiah, he's got blood on his hands. All right? What the hell did you all do?
Yeah, I remember this. I know where you're going with this. This is funny.
So Logan's our sheriff. He's our friend as a sheriff in the county of Kentucky. He looks and is like, who did you kill?
So he thought Jeremiah might have actually killed a human.
He thought we killed a game warden. He's like, in Kentucky, I could probably cover this up, but we're in West Virginia, we're fucked. I'm going to have to sit there and testify against you. Who did you kill? And I'm like, we didn't kill anybody. He goes, he's got blood on his hand. He's got hide on his hands. Fur. Who did you kill? And we lied. I looked at Jeremiah. Jeremiah's like, I killed a bear out of season, and we heard a game warden. Richie's like, getting ready to say something to screw the story up, and I kind of grabbed Richie and looked at him and shook my head. My son didn't see this. I was more worried about my son. All right? And Richie kind of realized something was up, so he kept his mouth shut, thank God. And Logan and Levi are like, you mean you took a bear out of season? And we're like, yeah, we took a bear out of season. We're ethical hunters, but we're lying to these guys, not telling them what we heard and whatnot. Say, oh yeah, we killed a bear out of season. And we thought we heard game wardens, and we were like, telling Richie and them, get the hell out, get the hell out, get the hell out.
Because if you'd have told them what had happened, one, it would have probably freaked some of them out. Or, even worse, in my opinion, if they would have made fun of Jeremiah or said the wrong thing to Jeremiah, which is something you don't do to Jeremiah, that wouldn't have ended well.
Jeremiah, if Levi would have been the one that said you're full of shit, Levi probably wouldn't be here today, to be honest with you.
I don't think he would have killed him, but he definitely would have mangled him.
Yeah, he's got PTSD. He really does, but it's just, you never question Jeremiah. If Jeremiah says the water's pink, the water's pink. And the water is pink. That's the thing. All right? That's why Jeremiah won't talk about his past, because he won't lie, but he has an oath. There's things he will not tell you. But they all see Jeremiah the way he is. I'm getting Jeremiah off the mountain. Richie looks and is like, Tristan, we're going to go with them. Then you got Levi and Logan look at each other. It's like, yeah, we'll come with you guys. So they get out the fire. We got 3 trucks. Everybody's leaving. Jeremiah's like, nobody shuts the gates. And we're like, Levi and them, the last guys out. They're like, we're going to have to shut the gates for Maddie. And Jeremiah's like, no, you're not. So we all got in. We go 45 miles to, I think it's Lewisburg.
And the reason why Jeremiah probably said not to shut the gate, at least this is what I'm taking out of that, because it was actually for their protection. So if this thing was out there in the area, if you got out and stepped out to close the gate, it might get you.
Exactly. He did not want anybody out of the dark because your headlights would not be at the side of the gate and it only faces in the front. And where these locks were for the gate, something can grab you and take you off. And it's like the gates were already unlocked. Jeremiah's like, nope, we'll take care of them tomorrow. Somebody steals our stuff. He goes, I'll pay for it all. He's like, just get me to my fucking hotel room. So we go to Lewisburg and go to our hotel room.
And again, with what you're going to find out what happened the next morning, this, whatever this was, and I'm going to flat out say it probably was a Bigfoot, but I don't know. Can't confirm it, but it may have been still in the area.
Possibly, but we didn't want to chance it or risk it. But the thing is we had 2 rooms at this hotel, and this is where the story ends of this night. We pull up. You're like, where you park your door to your room's there. And me, Tristan, and Jeremiah stayed in one room. Levi, Logan, and Richie stayed in the other room right next to us. And Jeremiah, with the blood still on his hands, because when he's opening the door, there's blood on the door handle, everything. He still has my gun. My gun's not in the case. We drive back to Lewisburg. The gun, I think it's Lewisburg, I can't remember. The gun is still, he takes the gun, he gets in, he looks around and lays the gun on the bed and kind of collapses on the ground. And he was like, I just want to stay here for a moment to decompress. And everybody comes in like, what the hell's going on? And Tristan was out getting the stuff to bring in. And I was like, where's Tristan? Like, he's unloading the truck. I was like, man, something bad happened to us. Like, we all go out there tomorrow morning. Guys, take a second weapon with you and be alert. And they're like, what's going on? Are there moonshiners up? What's going on? I'm like, no, dude, just be on guard. And Richie, what we didn't know, Richie, I'll go ahead and tell people, Richie has had an experience with Bigfoot, seen it, heard it. And we didn't know at the time. But Richie's like, I think I know what you're talking about. And we made eye contact. And I kind of got the hint of like, I really think he knows what we're talking about. And Richie's our other military buddy, but he's not special forces.
And that's one thing I find interesting when it comes to Bigfoot stories. Sometimes people have had events or things happen to them, but they don't tell anybody. So that was the case with Richie.
Yeah, on this property, and we started hunting this property 97, 98 to 2014. Weird things have happened in this property. And those are going to be different stories, as in just weird things. They're like, did a bear do this? Why would a human do this? You know, if a human did this, they'd take all of this. But the valuable stuff's still there. It's just weird things happen on this property. It's just like, was this a human? Was it a bear? Then you realize it'd take a thumb to do this. Bears don't have thumbs. But it wouldn't make sense. Not even a special needs person would do this. So it's like, if it's not a human, it's not a bear. Who the hell is it? You know, what is it? And well, now we know. But the funny thing is, when we tell Richie's story not about his next day, you'll hear Richie's story the next day. But his story of a hunting trip, he went with Jeremiah's Special Forces buddies because they know the same people. That story will blow your mind away. I first heard it, I didn't believe it. But when the other guys said it, I believed it. It was so real. Funny, real, and scary.
So let's go ahead and tell them what happened when y'all went back the next morning. Daylight time now. All right. But still early morning.
So we, everybody knows when you go hunting, you go out before daylight. Well, we made it damn sure we weren't going to go out until daylight. Jeremiah's like, these guys can go do whatever they want. I am going to go out at daylight. And I was like, fine, no problem. Well, that kind of spooked everybody else, and they were like, well, we'll go out in daylight too. And now everybody's hunting together. All right. So on this main lot, right. When you go threshing on the leaves and breaking snaps and twigs of branches, and if you're in a tree stand, if it's a ladder stand or a portable tree stand, whatever, you want to get in there, and it's, if they hear noises, they run off, and they have a attention span of like, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. So you got that 30 minutes, 45 minutes of quiet time. So if they're skittish, they'll come back. So that's why you go out an hour before daylight.
Yeah, I just thought I would point that out so nobody thought, wait a second, you mean they would go hunting before daybreak? No, that's not really the case. They go ahead and get set up before daybreak.
So on that main logging road, now everybody's hunting within a mile of each other. Levi and Logan are now hunting together on the same ridge, probably 500-600 yards apart. They're not short standing each other. Tristan and Richie are hunting in a stand that usually me and Tristan would hunt. And Richie's like, hey, I'll watch Tristan. I was like, my kid's at the time, he's in high school, I'm guessing. And I gave him a pistol. I was like, I don't care if it's game worn. I'll take care of it. I want this pistol. And Tristan's looking at me like, Dad, you all right? I'm like, fine. Just keep the pistol on you, and just watch yourself. So we go back. Me and Jeremiah go back.
So y'all went back to the spot where all this happened, where the buck was, and when you left, the buck was still laying there, obviously.
Yeah, the buck was still there, literally parked in the same spot my truck was at. Jeremiah walks over to the edge where the buck and the two does were at. You can see on this one sampling, because it's now daylight, blood all over it. I mean, chunks of meat. Like, yeah, I hit this thing good. And Jeremiah is scratching his head because I'm still standing by the truck. Jeremiah is standing on the embankment looking down. He's just scratching his head. And he goes down. I'm like, okay. And I think I might take a leak by the truck. And then I go down and see Jeremiah, but I see no deer. And Jeremiah's just looking around like disheveled, like, what the hell? Where'd this thing go? And I'm like, my deer's gone. And he's like, no joke. And he's looking around. So I go down, and what I don't know, I might as well go ahead and tell the people, is Jeremiah got down there and there was a possum left. I did not see this because I was still up by the truck taking a whiz.
Now, the possum, dead or alive?
It was dead. It was dead. Like later on when we leave, because there's another event that happens that everybody hauls ass out. As we're going down the main logging road that connects all these logging roads, Jeremiah hands me this possum. Well, that's later towards the story. So, but basically, yeah, this possum's dead as a doornail. It's like something took it and wrung it. Like every bone was broken. So he picked it up. I did not see him pick it up.
And that possum was where the buck was.
Where the buck was. A long story short, it was a gift. Thank you for the deer. Here's a possum. I did not know that at that moment.
At least that's what it appeared to be.
Yes. So I'm down there now looking around with Jeremiah. Jeremiah scratching his head. Jeremiah, I can hear him click the safety off of his rifle. I can see him kind of unlatch his holster on his sidearm. And I'm just like looking around like, you see something? He was like, no, I don't see nothing. That's the problem. And I don't know about the possum yet because he's got the possum in his pouch on the side of his his military pants. The big old side part that they have, he's got the possum in there, and I don't know this yet.
So right now, Jeremiah, one of his many skills, so his tracking skills are kicking in.
Yeah, Jeremiah, his tracking skills are great because Jeremiah would always tell us stories about ambushes they set up for the Taliban and Al Qaeda. And he's looking around, and he's now walking around me, kind of like a corkscrew. Walking around me, he's going wider and wider when he's going around. He's fanning out. And I'm looking down, and I see maybe one or two droplets of blood where Jeremiah started to cut the back straps out. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't see nothing. I saw no tracks, no drag marks, and Jeremiah's, fanning out. And he's going back and forth, fanning out, getting away further and further from me. And he's like, yeah, it's not a bear. Bear would drag it. There's no drag marks, because if they dragged it, you'd see hide, blood, whatever, entrails, whatnot. It wasn't coyotes, because they'd eat it there. It's like something took this thing and walked away with it. And this deer was every bit of 240 pounds. And Jeremiah's now fanning out towards No Man's Valley, where we heard the whoop, whoop, whoop from. And I'm like looking around the embankment we came down. Maybe somebody picked it and took it like a human. Nope, because you'd see the drag marks. And I'm like looking up towards where my truck's at, looking at the embankment, like, where the hell they take this deer at? And I'm not thinking Bigfoot now. I'm thinking like, oh, these were actual hunters. And I'm like looking, and I can just hear off behind me, like 45 yards, Jeremiah's like, I found it, problem solved. And I look at Jeremiah, and Jeremiah's looking at me, and he's like, he's leaning down, tilting his head, and he's looking. He's like, yep, you need to come here, Sebastian. You won't believe this.
So he found the buck?
No, he found what took it. This is freaky. So, man, I need to calm down for a second, because this is like bringing back. This is eerie to see. All right, this is eerie to see. And I'm looking at Jeremiah, and he's like, come here. I was like, do I want to? He's like, yeah, you got to see this. I'm like, do I need, my safety officer? He's like, no, come here, Sebastian. You're going to want to see this. This is going to blow your mind. So I'm slowly walking towards him. He's like, speed up, all right? They're not here. I just need you to show you something. And I was like, what's not here? He's like, whatever it is took the deer, but you need to come see this. So I'm coming walking over. He's like, look. And I'm looking around. I don't see nothing. He's like, now squat down over and look at these particular mounds. Now remember the mounds that I talked about the night before. The mounds that were 4 feet high, 6 feet in circumference, hard-packed dirt. Hard-packed dirt mounds. Hundreds of them in this area.
And about how far apart?
Oh, God. 10, 12 feet apart, as in from top to top, 10 to 12 feet apart. All right? But at the base of them, maybe 2 feet apart. You're talking cone-like. All right? 4 feet high. 10 feet apart. Jeremiah's like, look. And I bent down, and now the sun is coming up the ridge behind my truck. And it's casting shadows on these particular mounds. And I'm looking, and it looked like a visible path from top of the mound to the next top of the mound. And I'm like looking, and Jeremiah was like, do you see it? I was like, yeah, I see it now. And he's like, let me go to where the deer was at. I was like, fine.
So what are you seeing?
It looked like something was stepping from top of the mound to the next top of the mound.
So you saw distinguishable footprints?
I saw something big and heavy that would go from mound to mound, like left to right. Left to right.
And for verification, these were not human prints.
Oh, God, no. On one of the other ones, I got on top of it, started jumping, and I might have made a half an inch indent, because we're talking hard-packed mound. This thing, its foot was so big, it's like its toes and heels would hang off, and you'd see a 9-inch wide impression. And Jeremiah's like looking, he's like, that son of a bitch took the deer, either put it on top of its shoulder if these things are to exist. either put it on top of its shoulder or put it underneath its arm and step the intelligence of if this thing exists. He liked to talk if this thing exists. He won't come out and say it exists, but if this thing exists, it was wanting to hide its tracks. It would step from mound to mound, and I walked over where Jeremiah was at, and he goes, now follow me. I was like, all right, so we're now where the deer's at. The deer was at the night before. He's like, this is the left footprint. Look at this mound. That's a right footprint. I'm like, how can you tell? He's like, look at the curvature of the inside. This is the inside of the left foot. On this next mound, it's the inside of the right foot. So this was the left foot, right foot. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's a 10-foot stride. He's like, I'm just telling you, I'm an expert. And this thing, to conceal its identities, was walking from mound to mound, using the mound like stepping stones. And he goes, here's the creepiest thing. It took a left foot step off the last mound down to Dead Man's or No Man's Valley, and you can see the last mound, the right footprint, and then it took a 10-foot leap or a 10-foot step out, 6-foot step down, because its foot hit a rock and it slid down. So you see the left heel print slid down, and right there was an actual visual perfect imprint.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Of a left foot. And Jeremiah's looking at it and goes, yeah, that's about 11 feet out, 6 feet down. So it's like the ground gave way. So as it's stepping with its right foot on the mound, its left foot out, it kind of like slid down, kind of like doing the front splits. Because you can see where the right leg came down and it snapped a log probably 3 feet in diameter. It was huge.
So I know Jeremiah will never admit to this, but that's the reason why, folks, I believe they had a Bigfoot encounter.
Jeremiah looked at this footprint, and I know he took a picture of it with his phone. I didn't have my phone. I had my phone back up my truck. Reason there's no cell phone service, so why have a phone? But Jeremiah took a picture of it, and we've asked him this day about it, and he's like, I don't have it anymore. Leads me to believe that somebody, maybe in the military government, might have this picture, but he measured it, and it was a 19-inch long footprint, 8-inch wide.
That's a big foot.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to Kentucky.
I imagine you would be.
At this point. And what's weird, to this day, as in the second day, you don't hear birds, you don't hear crows, you don't hear the squirrels. You hear nothing. We see nothing. Those are the only 3 deer to that point that we've seen. But what happens to Richie and Tristan and then Logan and Jeremiah, freaky.
And before we get into that, which that'll have to be another story, we'll have to do this like a part 2. So when you and Jeremiah went by, I remember you saying that y'all both thought you felt like y'all was still being watched.
I said, Jeremiah, you got that odd feeling? He goes, yes, I know what you're saying. I was like, what am I saying? He was like, yeah, we're being watched. I was like, okay, so, I'm still like, you trying to tell me that you just sit there and see this footprint? You're trying to tell me these things don't exist? And the whole time I was like, Sebastian, just shut up, please. I'm calculating. And he's still in this combat fighting posture or situation. I don't know what they call it in the military, but he's surveying, he's calculating stuff. He's like, I guess, back having a flashback, maybe, like, combat might be around the corner. But he's like, yeah, I got this feeling we're being watched. And then and there, you can see him latch his sidearm back, and he latches his safety back on his rifle. And the weird thing is he kind of raises his rifle up like he was signaling somebody, and he put his rifle on his shoulder. and advised me to do the same thing. And I did. And I got the gist of, like, though he doesn't say these things are real, it's, if they are real, let's just show them we come in peace. We know you're here. We know you're watching us. We don't bring you any harm. And he looked at me, he's like, let's get back to the truck. And we went back to the truck. But our hunt was not over with. We were going to hunt. But things happened to Richie and Tristan that got Jeremiah and Logan, I don't know what the term I would want to use, but got them to react, to come to their aid. Because I was stuck with Levi. Because once we go to hunt, we're hunting near Logan and Levi. And Jeremiah and Logan are closer, where they get on the side-by-side to go rescue Richie and Tristan.
And that will have to be another story. Might end up calling it part 2, we're going to hear from Richie on that one, right?
You're going to hear from Jeremiah on this part of the story and that part of the story. You're going to hear from Richie. You're going to hear from Logan. I don't know about Levi because Levi thinks we're full of shit. But he heard things that he doesn't know and cannot explain what it is. He cannot explain what it is, but he's just in denial. But this part of the second story happens later on that afternoon. You got to realize what we're doing right now is probably 9 o'clock in the morning. We leave off that mountain before 1 o'clock, and we have not been back since then. We paid people to get all of our equipment and stuff off that mountain and bring it and deliver it back to us.
So if you enjoyed that story and you really want to hear what happened later on that day to Richie, you want to check back with us, be watching for that story to be coming out. That'll be part 2. Or if you're just now tuning in, it's probably already up. But if not, be on the lookout for it. Because you definitely want to hear a little bit from Jeremiah's point of view of what happened. And you're definitely going to want to hear Richie's story. I'll be honest with you, I find Richie's story a little bit hard to believe, but at the same time, when Jeremiah says something, you have to believe it. So I'm going to take it that it probably did happen. But
so just that part, I know what you're getting at. Yeah, Richie says it, I wouldn't believe it. But my son was there, and he said the same thing. Jeremiah, okay, let me do this again. So yeah, I know where you're going at. Richie says something, take it with a grain of salt. But when my son says the same thing, and it kind of freaked him out, and then Jeremiah and Logan say the same thing, that adds credibility to it. So I wouldn't believe it, but when my son and 2 others say, yeah, this happened, that's why we no longer hunt there anymore.
So if you like this story, we actually look forward to telling you more stories, and some of them are, in my opinion, may even be better than this story. So, as you already know, we deal with all things horror, a lot of related to Bigfoot stuff. So if you like those type of stories, please tune in to some more of them. Like, subscribe.
Yeah, like Elijah's trying to say, if you like, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Finger bang the like button. And here at Bravo Vein, fact or fiction, truth or lies, you decide.
Fact or fiction? Truth or lies? You decide.